Hello, it's Sheila back again. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to do it's a small lace pattern, and I don't know what to call this one. I just made it up one day. It's just two little holes here and 6 rows from the start of the lace here to the start of the next lace, and then you do the next row in the middle of those two, and that's how it goes. And it's very simple. It's in multiples of 5. There's 5 knit stitches, and then there's 5 lot of stitches where you do the lace, and another 5 knit stitches, and 5 the lace, and 5 knit stitches, and the 6 rows, like I said, from the start to the start of the next one. But you can do this as many number of stitches as you want. You can have a larger number of stitches in between, a larger number of rows for the length, but I'm just doing it this way for tutorial purposes. So I'll show you how to do this pattern. And this row I'm on to, the first 2 stitches are knit 2 together, and then yarn over the needle, then knit the next stitch. The yarn goes over the needle, makes another stitch, and yarn over the needle again, and this time we're slipping the first stitch and knitting the next stitch, and the yarn goes over again and makes another stitch, and then we're passing that first slip stitch over that stitch we've just knitted, and that's your 2 holes for the eye lace. I think that's what I'll call this one, eye lace. And then you knit 5 stitches, and then we're doing the eye stitches again in the middle. So you knit the first 2 stitches, just knit 2 together, yarn to the front of the needle, knit the next stitch, and the yarn goes over the needle, and knit that stitch, and yarn to the front again, and this time, like before, we're slipping the first stitch and knitting the second stitch, and the yarn goes over and makes another stitch, and then we slip that slip stitch over the knitted stitch, and then it's knit another 5, and then we're on to the 5 stitches for the eye holes. So knit 2 together, yarn to the front of the needle, knit into the next stitch, the yarn goes over the needle and makes another stitch, knit that stitch, yarn to the front, slip that next stitch and knit the next one, and the yarn goes over and makes a stitch, and then slip that slip stitch over. And that's 1 row. And the lacy patterns here, the reason you knit 2 together at the start is because when you just knit 2 together, they slope that way, which is the way you want. And this one, when you slip 1 stitch and knit 1 stitch and slip the stitch over, it slopes that way. So you want the stitches sloping that way and that way. You don't want them both going the same way, or that just doesn't have the same effect. And that's why you do the different kind of knitting 2 stitches together each side of the hole. So the next stitch is just a plain, the next row is just a plain purl row all the way across, making sure you don't lose that stitch that you made. It doesn't come off the needle that you're knitting it. And that's that knit stitch, that purl row finished, and you can see the start of the eye hole lace here. And I'll knit a few more rows till I come to the next lace, and I'll show you again. And I've knit up to the next pattern row, and I'm going to show you how the little holes are going to be in the middle this time. So I'm going to knit 5 stitches first. And then I'm going to have the stitches going out over. I'll knit 2 stitches, yarn forward to the front of the needle, knit the next stitch, the yarn goes over that needle, and then you knit that stitch, the yarn forward, front of the needle again, and this time we're going to slip 1 stitch, knit 1 stitch, the yarn goes over the needle and knits that stitch, and then you take that slip stitch and take it over the knit stitch. So those stitches go the opposite way to those ones. You can see how the stitches are sloping that way and that way, opposite to each other. And I'm going to knit another 5 stitches. And then it's knit 2 stitches together again, with the yarn to the front of the needle to make a stitch, knit into that next stitch, the yarn goes over the needle and knits a stitch, and then the yarn in front again, we're going to slip that stitch and knit the next stitch, so the yarn goes over the needle and knits that stitch, and slip that stitch, slipped stitch over the knit stitch, and then we've got 5 stitches left to knit. And then I'll knit or purl this row to finish it off. And I'm almost at the end of this row. And that's another row of the eye holes. So that's another one of my stitches. And if you like my video, would like to see more, please subscribe, your thumbs up.